Now, Pavarotti was a good friend.
Before I get started on this one, I just want to send a shout out to my guy Drip Drop. Drip Drop is awesome, and y'all all know who he is. And just keep your eye out for Drip Drop because he knows what I know. The video that I did the other day where I explained there was a Fed among us, those of you that watched it know what I'm talking about. Well, obviously, him and I agree. You can see he sent me a message that says facts, and he's not the only one, and he is absolutely right, and I got my eyes open for the rest of them. But yes, there is definitely feds in the mix, folks. Hello. Welcome to The Revealing. I'm your host, Pavarotti, and I'm here to discuss the Idaho 4 case. Now, as a disclaimer, this channel is for entertainment purposes. These are my opinions. I'm not here to slander anyone, and I do intend to speculate, and I do intend to ask you to assist me in speculating. So let's get started. I did a video the other night on the roommates' roles in this event. And as I mentioned before, I have to walk on eggshells because when we start talking about the roommates, I do believe the roommates are victims in this as well. In fact, if what I truly believe took place, the roommates absolutely would be victims, and they would be very scared individuals. And possibly only with us today because of who they know. But that's, again, speculation. And when it comes to this aspect on it, I don't have all the pieces to the puzzle. So what I'm trying to do, though, is I'm trying to fit those pieces into this puzzle. Try to figure it out. And I still need your help with that. So today, we're going to go even further. And, when I put these videos together, like the one that I'm doing right now, I don't just do them willy-nilly. Okay, I don't do them without really thinking it through. And I'm thinking it through not just in the video that I'm doing, but I'm thinking it through in videos to come. Just like the video I did the other night. So as we're going through this, you'll see that I've put some time and effort into this, as I do everything that I do. But as we go through this, just know that I'm trying to get somewhere with it, but I don't have all the pieces, so I need your help. And what we're going to do in this one is dive deeper. Now, folks, this one's going to be a little bit longer video than I normally do, and the reason for that is I want to be able to cover everything that I want to cover, and to split it up into 2 or 3 videos, I wouldn't be able to make my point as well. And y'all know when I do a video, I like to make a point. When it's over, I like to have achieved whatever it was I was trying to achieve with that video. I don't like to leave things open for interpretation or leave cliffhangers. So it is going to be a little bit longer, but I just ask you to stick with me on it, because by the end of this, I think we may have some directions that we can go into. But with that being said, we're going to revisit the PCA and what was said, just like we did the other day, but we're going to do it in a little bit different way. Just like I showed y'all a few videos back when Drunk Turkey was interviewing Howard, no, it wasn't Drunk Turkey, I'm sorry, it was Law Offices of Andrew Myers was interviewing Howard Bloom. He was spewing all of his terrible speculation, but he had a few truths in there with that terrible speculation. One of those truths were that those Steve G texts were real. And that's something that I always believed. A lot of people say you can't verify the Steve G text, that's all fake. Well, Bloom verified it. No, they were leaked. Those were real texts. I believe that information on those texts was real, at least as real as Steve G knew. And a lot of the information he got was from talking to people that had actually been in that grand jury. So the things that were discussed in the grand jury is what he believes that he knows. Now, I've discussed this many times. I believe the investigation into this case is being hidden, and all aspects of the investigation is being hidden. But I also believe the investigation that they're hiding isn't correct. So they're hiding an investigation from you that I don't think was even a good investigation. So we're picking apart the onion, peeling back the onion, all the pieces on the onion, and it's going to lead to different aspects. So we're not only trying to figure out this case, trying to figure out what the heck the state's case really is. So keeping that in mind, I'm not trying to confuse you, but as we dive into this, I think we can use these Steve G texts to kind of verify some things and also open some eyes. And you'll also see that when I put out suggestions about things and why I feel that way about them, you'll see that I don't just do that just off of a whim. There's always something else that's backed up whatever it is that I'm saying. Like, for instance, the forensic downloads of the roommates' phones. I don't believe that law enforcement just picked up their phones and read those texts that they texted each other. I believe those were deleted. And I believe it took a forensic download for law enforcement to discover them. And I'll show you why I feel that way here in just a minute. And I think you'll be able to see why I feel that way. But let's go through these. I think you're going to find this interesting. But again, also, I'd like to definitely keep your opinions on this as well. First of all, I'd like to show you this. This is very, very weird. I've pulled up Google Maps on the 1122 King Road address about 1,000 times. And in Google Maps, it never showed the roads going around the Linda Lane apartments before. When I did it today, I'll be dang, look at this. In Google Maps now, it used to just show this road right here. And it would come down and it would go around here and the road would go over to here and stop. But now look, it's got the road that goes around the Linda Lane apartments and the little road that comes around the backside of them to right here. So Google has updated this, and that's just kind of crazy, I think. Very strange. So anyway, I just thought I'd show you that. This right here was never there before. Now it's there. So just that's just weird. It has nothing to do with my video. I just wanted to show you all that. Okay, so getting into the PCA, I've got the PCA on the left and I've got Steve G's text that relates to that on the right. So as we go through here, let's discuss. And again, just like the other day, we'll start with Mortensen and Funk. Both made statements during interviews that indicated the occupants of the King Road residence were at home by 2 a.m. Now, if anybody else was in the home other than the occupants, and I say that, lightly because Ethan and Kaylee were not really occupants. Kaylee was still on the lease, so you could consider her an occupant, but Ethan was not an occupant. Obviously, they're stating that Ethan, they're calling him an occupant in this, but they're not saying that anybody else was in this house at 2 a.m. And if they were, they would absolutely have to list this in the PCA, because who would be prime suspects other than the people that were in the house at the time? So based on this, they're saying nobody else is in the house. All the residents are home at 2 and they're asleep or at least in their rooms by 4 a.m. And this is all according to Mortensen and Funk's statements. Okay. Then it says here, this is with the exception of Kernodle, who received a DoorDash order at the residence at approximately 4 a.m., but that was confirmed by the DoorDash driver, not by Mortensen and Funk. So, according to Mortensen and Funk, nobody else is in the house. Everybody's in the room at 4 a.m., and I don't know how Funk did not hear this DoorDash driver bring in the food, knock on the door, or at the very least, Kernodle come downstairs, open the door, and get her food. Because as we're going to find out here in a minute, And it didn't even click in my head. The other video I did the other day, somebody pointed it out. But if Mortensen and Funk are texting each other during the time of the atrocity, that means Funk's awake as well. So the only person in this house that could possibly be asleep, other than possibly Ethan, but I would say he's awake if Zan is awake, but the only person that could be asleep would be Mogan. Everybody else is awake in this house when this goes down, according to this PCA. But let's see what Steve G's text says about it. It says, I am not what is all being said. He's obviously not typing correctly. He's trying to say, I don't know what all is being said, but I've heard repeatedly DM is shady and should be looked into. All right, so he's saying DM is shady. That's his perception of Mortensen right here. The grand jury members both said they didn't believe her testimony. Now, if the grand jury members didn't believe DM's testimony, you can bet that most of this PCA, if not all of it, as it relates to the atrocity, was from Mortensen's statements. You know, it doesn't say really anything in here about Funk's statements, just Mortensen's. So if Steve G believes she's shady and the grand jury didn't believe her testimony at all, and this whole thing come from Mortensen's statement, then everything we know about the atrocity, according to Steve G and the grand jury members, cannot be believed. Now that is just crazy to me. But keep reading here. It says, her testimony created more questions than it answered. Then said some of them said she would be investigated, but for reasons that we do not fully understand. Now, let's start kind of making this puzzle start to fit as we go through here. Not only did the grand jury not believe her testimony, but some of them said that they thought that DM would be investigated, but not for the atrocity, but for reasons that they didn't fully understand. So, to me, that would indicate that they thought she would be investigated for making statements that were not true. And the only thing that I can think of that would make somebody make statements that were not true is one of two reasons. One, either to protect somebody, or because they're too frightened to tell the truth. Now, it could be one of the two. Let's continue. We only had so much time to ask the questions, referring to the people in the grand jury that Steve G had spoken with. So, I'm going to assess at this point, again, one of those two things. Either DM is trying to protect somebody, and that means that BF would be doing the same, or they are so frightened that something may happen to them or their family that they will not tell the truth. Or at least Mortensen will not tell the truth. BF is not telling apparently anything at all. So it's just kind of interesting. Now, to explore the angle of if DM knew the perpetrators, like some people are going to suggest, it had something to do with the frat boys, and the frat boys did it, and DM knows the frat boys. Well, let me tell you why that doesn't work, okay? Because and it's going to go on, we're going to see where DM suggests that the people she knew that they were being unalived. But if she was in that house and there was people that she knew, even friends of hers, that was going in to other rooms in this house and unaliving her roommates, even if she knew these people, she would be scared out of her absolute mind that they might turn around and do the same to her. Think about it. This is a youngster And can you imagine being in a room and one of your friends was unaliving your other friends, like multiple of them in the house, whether you knew them or not? They said they wouldn't hurt you. Wouldn't it be in your mind the whole time? My gosh, they could come kick this door in any second and unalive me as well. She would be absolutely scared to death. So that doesn't add up. That doesn't add up, not one bit. What could have scared her so much that she wouldn't talk about this, though? That's just me speculating. Let's continue. Next, we have, again, this whole PCA statement. And I just wanted to hit this real quick because this puts a totally different light on, I think, the entire situation. So Mortensen said she originally went to sleep in her bedroom on the southeast side of the second floor. She stated she was awoken at approximately 4 a.m. Okay, approximately 4 a.m. based on the way that they've worded everything down to the 4:12 with the tick-tock, 4 a.m. to 4:25 timeline. When they say approximately 4 a.m., I'm going to assume they mean within a couple of minutes of 4 a.m., not approximately like 4:10 or 4:15. No, there's too short of a timeline for these events to have happened for them to approximate within 10 or 15 minutes. And they've got texts between the roommates that backs up their statements of the times. So 4 a.m. is what it says. I don't care if it says approximately not. Approximately 4 a.m., 4:01, 4:02, 3:58. She stated she heard sounds that sounded like Gonzalez playing with her dog in one of the upstairs bedrooms. Again, that means Mortensen, DM, she is awake. It means now Gonzalez is awake. Down here it's going to say Kernodle is likely awake and using TikTok at 4:12. So Kernodle's awake. If she's awake, she's in the room ordering food on TikTok. You can bet the guy in there with her is awake. So DM's going to be texting BF here in a minute. So we know BF is awake. That only leaves Mogan as somebody who could possibly be asleep. So that means when this perpetrator goes inside, if it was the one perpetrator, he's dealing with 5 people in a house that are awake. He's going to unalive 4 people. And you're going to tell me that one guy could do that with a knife and do it to where he doesn't alarm the other people in the house to what he's doing? Give me a break. That's way more idiotic than the scenario that they tried to make us believe where everybody's asleep and he did it. So I'm not even going to go into all the idiocy in that. But we've already read all this. I just wanted to point out that not only was DM awake, saying Kaylee's awake playing with her dog, Xana and Ethan are awake. That's an X, by the way. Xana and Ethan are awake, but now we know that BF is awake as well. So this house is full of awake people when they say this thing went down, which is absolute ridiculous. So then we've got Mortensen stated she opened the door for a third time after she heard the crying. Again, she already heard the crying and opened the door the second time. And saw a figure clad in black clothing and a mask. Okay, now, clad in black clothing and a mask. It doesn't say in a ninja hood. It doesn't say in a ski mask. It says a mask that covers the person's mouth and nose. Right? A mask that covers the person's mouth and nose. What kind of mask covers a person's mouth and nose? A surgical mask. One like everybody wore during the COVID pandemic, right? It doesn't say a mask that covered the person's mouth and nose and head. And believe me, if it covered the mouth and nose and head, it would have said that. It just says covered the mouth and nose. So no, this was not a ninja mask. This was not a ninja hat. And he was walking towards her. Mortensen described the figure as 5'10" or taller, male, not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows. No hair color, no hairstyle, Not did he have a hat on or a cap on or anything covering his head, because all she states is he had on a mask that covered his mouth and nose. So what was his ethnicity? What was his hair color? What was his hairstyle? We don't see any of the normal things in this. And that's probably why the grand jury members didn't believe her testimony, because it's not believable. And then she says the male walked towards her, towards the back sliding glass door. Mortensen locked herself in her room after seeing the male. In the statement, Mortensen did not state that she recognized the male. Well, it certainly didn't say Mortensen did not state that she recognized the ninja, okay? Because he wasn't dressed like a ninja. He was obviously, she's trying to state that the guy was dressed like a normal student with a COVID mask on. And this leads investigators to believe the unaliver left the scene. Okay, but once again, according to the grand jury members, none of this that she's stating is believable, and they didn't believe it. And folks, if the grand jury didn't believe it, you know a jury's not going to believe it, because a grand jury will indict a ham sandwich. So what the heck happened in that grand jury that made them indict Brian Kohberger when the only material witness in the case did not have a believable statement? The combination of Mortensen's statement to law enforcement, reviews of forensic downloads of records from Funk and Mortensen's phone. Okay, now this is what I wanted to focus in on right here, because I did a video about this. I mentioned it in the last video. Some people didn't agree with me on this, thought it was just a technical thing. Well, it's technical downloads, that's how they'd put it. Now, if they just pulled regular old text messages off of Funk and Mortensen's phone, they wouldn't have put in here a forensic download of records showed the texts. Now let's look at the Steve G text to further verify that. But by the way, if they're texting back and forth, because these texts are what they determined the 4 to 425 timeline, that and along with the car video that doesn't apply, but just the car video and the text is what it says they determined the timeline from. So that means Funk and Mortensen are both awake texting each other during the time of the atrocity. There's two more awake people for you. But the Steve G text says this: no, they said she heard everything. The grand jury said that DM heard everything. Not just Kaylee playing with her dog, she heard the atrocity taking place. So that means when she said she heard Kaylee playing with her dog, she heard Kaylee playing with her dog. She knew the difference between the sounds of Kaylee playing with her dog and them being unalived. Says it right there. And even admitted saying via text, I think someone unalived them. She just didn't call and report it, even as she was hiding in a room that's 8 foot by 10 foot. Where are you going to hide in there? They have a full phone dump of both girls' phones. See, this is the key right here. They have a full phone dump of both girls' phones. That means they didn't read the text messages off of their phones. They had to do a forensic download and get a full dump of their phones to be able to even know that they texted this to each other. So how suspicious is that? Let's move forward. Okay, the grand jury members said her testimony, and they're talking about DM, was complete BS. I'll let y'all figure out what that means. And created more questions than answers. They said to the extent that some stated they should be charged. Charged with what, though? But in this post, he says they said to the extent that some stated she should be charged. So again, they're talking about DM. They're not talking about BF as much. And you can see down here it says, yep, and she wrapped up right in I'm a victim. So none of you can't say SHIT about me. Now, wrapped up in I'm a victim. Well, potentially she is a victim in this. But then over here you'll see it says she is for sure, but she is protected by her stepmother's law firm. Now, again, I think they're talking about DM, even though Howard Bloom suggested it was BF's stepmother that was had the law firm. But I think it's more likely DM. And it says, sounds like there's some power in that firm. They're also being helped by Jack Showalter's family. They threatened to sue me pretty early into the case. Sent someone to my house. They trespassed, came down my driveway right up to my porch. It was pretty wild. Well, that's pretty interesting to go and, again, there's more people threatening the father of one of the victims in this case for trying to dig up information. Stop digging up information about the informant or you're in trouble. Stop going down the path of the roommates or you're in trouble. So that's just interesting. One thing most people don't know is DM and especially BF. Okay, now it's getting into BF, especially BF, are well connected and have friends in powerful positions. So I guess my question is, if the roommates don't have information that is important to this case, why would they need attorneys and powerful people to protect them? Why wouldn't they just be able to go in, if they've got the one guy that did this and he's a lone Ted Bundy, why would the roommates not want to go into court and testify, because the guy's in jail, and testify against the guy and put him in the firing squad? I mean, he unalived their roommates. There's no chance of anybody hurting them or them getting hurt in any way by doing that. So why do they need lawyers? Why are they scared to testify? I know it's not because they're scared to face Brian Kohberger in court. So what is really going on here? It's, again, one of two things, folks. Either they're protecting people that they know, and I don't believe that they would go this far to protect one of their little friends that unalived all their other friends. Or they're scared to death that if they testify, things may happen to them or their family. It's one of the two. We got to figure it out, and how does it apply? Now, let's go into people, right? People that they're associated with, other than the people that were unalived. If we've got DM up here, we know that her boyfriend is this youngster here named, I believe it's QK, right? So if this is her boyfriend, and we all know that her boyfriend's father right here is, I believe I don't know if he's in prison right now or if he's out, but he's definitely spent plenty of time in prison, and you can see there by the tats and what kind of hand signal is this? Oh, what kind of hand signal is this that he's putting up right here? Is that an A-OK? Or is that a 1-2? Oh, is that a 1? Uh-oh. Is that 1-2? Is that what that means? Is that hand signal a 1-2? You know what 1-2 means, right? Well, if you decipher 1-2 in a certain way that certain people do, 1 equals the first letter of the alphabet, and 2 equals the second letter of the alphabet. So a 1-2 hand signal equals that. But I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just pointing out what I see right here. But I don't believe that somebody like this would have knowledge of what would be taking place at the King Road residence all on his own if he's in prison. I don't believe this one would have had knowledge of what was going to go down, or else he probably wouldn't have had her still be in the house. So what is the connection here? Now we know that these two both are associates with these two. And the question on my mind is this gentleman right here associates with these two? That is a question that I would like to have answered, because if he is, then I think I can fit in several puzzles in this thing. But I don't know about his relationship with them. I know about her relationship with him, his relationship with him, her relationship with them, and her relationship with them. But what is this kid's relationship with these two? If anybody knows, let me know, because it's important. And then we finally end up in this town of Moscow. Town of Moscow. So if we've got these two right here, let me get a different color here. How do you get a different? Can I get a different color? How do you get a different color? I guess it don't matter. Okay, we got these two right here, and we know that they know these two, right? And we got up here on Cleveland Street, TF and TR. I have it on good authority that TF and TR, and by the way, TF we know is AB. He's that white supremacist that the New York Times said law enforcement investigated. I have it on good authority he supplied these two with illicit substances. And these two are known dealers there in Moscow. So they're connected with these guys. They know these folks. So my question is, does this gentleman right here have any connection with these two? Because if he does, and I believe that these two were integral in planning what went down at the King Road house, and I believe they were also integral in the reason that these two were unharmed. But it's hard to believe that just simply EB or on her own would have enough pull to not get these two harmed. She could have asked, pleaded, but I don't believe she had enough pull to make them not get those two harmed. So how did these two not get harmed based on that? These are the players. This is what we've got to figure out, and it's not an easy thing to do. I have my suspicions of how this thing worked out, but I'm not 100% sure. And I don't like to put my suspicions out there unless I have other evidence that can back them up. Now, we do know, just from hearsay, that on the morning after the atrocity, it was said that, and again, this is something that I know I've heard some people say is true and other people have say has been debunked. I don't know how you can debunk anything in this case, but it's been said that people witnessed DM and BF outside around 8 a.m. smoking a Mary Jane cigarette with EB and DR outside the King Road residence. And that's very sus. That's very suspicious. Very suspicious, I think. So that we have to contend with. If that is a fact, if that truly did happen, then that would put another piece to the puzzle in. So we know that is a possibility. The other thing that we have heard, in fact, I'm going to save that for the next video. Anyway, post your comments, post your thoughts. I know there's a lot of information I just put out there. It's a bit cloudy, the whole situation, but if we keep digging and poking and prodding, well, sooner or later, those clouds are going to start forming very clear figures that we'll be able to see. Please post your comments, post your criticisms, but I really enjoy listening to your thoughts. And please like and subscribe to the channel. Till next time, Pavarotti is out.